Yo, we're back. Moderator 28 back again, once again, with a One Piece review of chapter 1075. It's been a minute. I'm gonna do my best to get more consistent with these reviews. Try to get them out same day on Sunday because I do believe Viz has the best translation. So I will be making a concerted effort to get them out. As I said, same day. This chapter is called Labophase Death Game. In the background going forward of these videos, you will be seeing either Genshin Impact gameplay from me, Legend of Zelda gameplay. When Resident Evil 4 drops, you'll be seeing that as well. And maybe even some God of War, just to, I won't necessarily say distract, but a nice alternative besides just hearing me drone on about the chapter. Something just to keep folks engaged with. But as I said, this chapter is called Labophase Death Game. Starts off with volume 31 of the Emotionless Excursion of German 66. It says the genius scientist gets an audience with the five elders. So obviously we see the five elders still with the same beards, but noticeably silhouetted. So this plays up to what everybody's been saying in the community about maybe these guys are immortal. Obviously, we don't know that, but they could be. They could have had the eternal youth surgery performed on them at a later stage in life, but it's kept them in this same state because they look the same as I think it was the bombing of O'Hara. So they had the beards then. Obviously, Vegapunk, this is when he still had black hair and he had his whole head. And this is before he ate the brain fruit because his head isn't that long because you can see his widow's peak still. So obviously, and it's also before he made all of the satellites as well. So page 1, we have Shaka trying to radio in, and I do stutter, guys, so it is just something that it is what it is. I'm not editing it out. You can suffer with me through this journey. But yeah, so Shaka is trying to get in contact with Pythagoras, and he can see a image on the screen. He doesn't know exactly what it is, but we see it rush up and turn off the snell cam, or blow it up, if you will. Now, many folks, including myself at the beginning, thought Saturn was already there, but clearly they're not there yet, because the laser dome is on right now. So there's no way Saturn can get up there unless he has a phase fruit, or unless Kizaru has an awakening that also affects others and he can phase through it as well. That would be the only way that they would be there, and I doubt it's Saturn in them. So there is a traitor among the Vegapunks, as we are going to get into in this chapter. And so Luffy notices that on the next page, he can't hear anything anymore up on the headset. So someone has turned off the communication feature. It shut it down, which also may lead to the boots also being shut down as well. Because again, we know Luffy broke his boots, but everybody else has on the boots. But it might lead to that. Now, we do know the boots do work because Frankie, as you'll see later on in this chapter, was able to use its feature to slow down his descent. So after that, the next page is, which is page 4, we get Nami with Brooke and Edison, and they come across fake diamonds or synthetic diamonds in here. And obviously, Nami being Nami, she wants to grab them and take them with her, but right now the main focus is finding the Stella. So she leaves them behind, but she does want to come back. And I'll also back up a little bit. We're given a map of F4, F3, F2, F1. Nami's group is 3F building A, so I guess they're F3, and so they're in the middle of it from 2 floors beneath the actual labo phase, because I guess the labo phase is F5, but it's not listed. It's just F4 is where it stops at. So that's where Jaimi's group is at. Right after that, we go to page 5. We get Robin's group, which is Chopper, Robin, and Atlas. And Atlas says that with the mods that they have here, she can change her face, and she can change different parts of her body out. And so this also gives credence that maybe one of the Vegapunks is impersonating another body of the satellites. And so that also gives room and plays up to it's one of the Vegapunks that are doing this. So if all of them can just change out body parts or change out how they look, as I've said before, my money is on Shaka, because again, he was watching the cameras, but how do you know where that Bonnie is, but you don't know where the actual guy is at? It doesn't make any sense to me. But yeah. And then we also see that they are lab growing organs. And so, which I guess in our real world, it'll be stem cells, let's say if somebody on this island gets I think it's a fatal wound, they could probably go back here because Robin's group is in 2F building A. So they could come back here, grab one of these stem cells and seemingly attach it to the person, and they could be made whole again. But by this time, Luffy comes into the room. Luffy and Zoro are in command room 4F building A. And so this is when they notice all of the screens are being turned off. Somebody, and this is when Shaka says there's someone here inside the lab. So Shaka says inside the lab. Now, if I'm not mistaken, they're in the labo phase. So he's basically saying that somebody in the same area that he, Luffy, and Zoro are at are sabotaging everything. Because all of the feats are going off now. They're going out one by one. Now, the only Seraphim that we don't see in this chapter is the Jinbei Seraphim. We know that he has the swim fruit. So it wouldn't be beyond the realm of possibility that he could actually swim through and phase through walls. And he's the one going around shutting off all of the surveillance going on. Plus, we know with Oda, you don't trust a silhouette in this series, because Kanjuro looked like a glob of just paint, but in the anime, he still looked to himself in that flashback. So you just don't trust Oda when it comes to that thing up in the manga, because they always mislead. By next page, we go over to Sanji's group. He's in 2F building B. On the right, he's with Stussy. He remembers her from the tea party, but notice he doesn't say the wedding, because obviously Pudding took away that memory, and so he doesn't remember that it was a wedding and not necessarily just a tea party. And so he asks Stussy to call him a dog, and she tells him to just focus on finding the actual real Dr. Vegapunk. Jinbei comments that the lab is enormous, and then she says this is the weapons development floor, so don't cause any big vibrations. Now, if you know anything about Oda, he loves explosions. He loves giving countdowns by the end of the arc. So if this room does go through vibrations, obviously Kizaru's coming, and let's say a wayward laser beam gets through and blows up this part of the lab, it could cause a chain reaction that blows up a part of the whole island. Obviously, Punk Records cannot be affected because that's where his actual brain is at. That's where he stores everything. And since he wants to create the internet, I doubt Oda would destroy the whole island. So more than likely that would survive, but this part of the island could possibly be blown up, creating a panic situation where they will have to go in there and stop a countdown of, let's say, a nuclear meltdown that could destroy the whole island. And that could be like the countdown effect of this arc. And so we could stop it that way. But anyway, let me stop bunny trailing and get back on point. Then we go to the next group after Sandra's group, which is Usopp, Lilith, York, and Frankie. They're in 3F Building C on the left. And then obviously Usopp is freaking out because it's a bubble gun. So this does remind me of the beginning of chapter 1074 with the Mark III pacifistas. They have the bubble shield. More than likely, this is that same concept. And as we talked about last week, could be inspired by the bubbles in Saboti, or this could be inspired by the soap fruit. And so she says, Lilith says it shoots the ultimate bubbles that can deflect anything. So obviously this might come in handy for the group. York says she's like sleepy, what? And then Frankie says, it's just small talk, it's just banter. The real part is that they come across the body of Pythagoras. We know it was an explosion last week, so seemingly he got laser beamed, as we know, by a snake. But we know that his head pops off of the body, and so they come across him in his actual body, and so he has this weird quirk of speaking that he says more than what he needs to, like I'm saying right now. And he doesn't get to the point. And so as he's trying to explain to them what's going on, York walks forward away from the group and goes to pet S-Snake on the head. And she mentions that S-Snake is cute. And so, because a lot of people were in an uproar about the CP0 agents being creeps because she was able to turn them into stone. They were like, oh, why are they quote unquote being, pets to a kid? But obviously they could have just thought she was adorable, which I'm pretty sure, as I mentioned earlier, that's what Oda was going for. She's just super cute. And because of that, that's why York gets turned into stone as well. Yeah, because that's what Pythagoras was trying to tell her, but because of the way he talks, he didn't get it out in time. And so she kicks York away, and then she shoots a laser beam at the group as they're falling. As I said, Frankie is able to activate his boots for now and turn himself upright, and so does Lilith. But the problem is that Frankie wants to return fire, and Lilith says they can't because the Seraphim are too strong, and they made them to be the strongest or the ultimate form of humanity. So we know that they are mixed with Lunarian DNA like King, because they have the black wings and they have the fire. So everything that King had, they should have as well, obviously with a few different powers to boot. And so, but S-Snake looks down at them, but she doesn't seemingly come after them, because, or maybe she does, but at the time that this ends, we're already moving back to Luffy and Zoro. So we're back in command room building A. Zoro calls out for help from Luffy, and then Shaka comes and he's like, okay, good. He believes Shaka can stop them, but turns out Shaka can't, because again, one of the Vegapunks is seemingly the traitor, or there's an unknown person there who has a higher authority rank than what the Vegapunks possibly have, because Edison was the last one to give the order, so they should be obeying Edison's order unless he rescinded it to where any of the Vegapunks can give an order. But that doesn't make any sense, because if he made it to where any of them could give an order, then Shaka should have been able to control them. But as we know, that's not the case. So one of the Vegapunks has to be the traitor, or as I said, maybe a entity that they're not sure about has a higher authority than what the Vegapunks have. And so he tries to tell them to stop, but they won't. And then Zoro mentions that they're gunning for CP0. So they're not even after the Straw Hats. They're after the Vegapunks and CP0. We know Lucci was not supposed to engage until given permission by the world government, but he decided to go ahead and engage anyway. And so maybe this is retaliation against Rob Lucci, because he's the one who caused this. They're not supposed to fight a Yonko unless they get permission from the world government. We saw this with Blackbeard and them on Amazon Lily. The vice admiral there even said that they can't fire upon Blackbeard unless given the order from headquarters. So maybe this is why the Seraphim are gunning for them. We know that the point of the Straw Hats being here was to take the real Vegapunk away, but with them gunning for the actual Vegapunks and CP0 and not the Straw Hats, who is this entity that's after them, And so we get it to where they're over there trying to take out Cypher Bowl Zero, And then Kaku and Lucci bring up the idea that they could put their emphasis at the side and team up to go against these guys. So that's pretty much the chapter. It was a good one. It's a good setup chapter. Nothing too crazy happens in it. I think it's a solid chapter from Oda. Obviously, I cannot wait for next week's or this week's release, I should say. But by the end of it, Luffy and Zoro do give the Odin and Whitebeard disgusted face, over here, because they don't want to do it. They don't want to have to team up. And as I said, I don't know how I really feel about Seraphim, because it's Zoro took out King the Wildfire, who had a better defense than what Kaido did, and he unlocked Conqueror's Coding. Luffy beat Kaido, who was an Emperor. So I don't know where Oda's going to go with this. Is it going to be a struggle to beat these Seraphim? Are they stronger than what King was? Does it make them Yonko level? It'd be kind of crazy if these kids, just as kids, are Yonko level. But again, we don't know if they can utilize Haki, because they don't seem to have a will of their own. We know Haki is your ambition realized. So we'll see where Oda goes with it. But again, that was chapter 1075. Like, comment, subscribe, dislike, whatever type of interaction you do. It helps out the channel. It gets us in the algorithm more often. Anyway, that was me, your boy Madara. I'll see you guys next week. Peace. Or later this week on Sunday, which I guess is technically next week. But anyway, bye.